I saw today the SEC network is enjoying their 10-year anniversary. They're calling it a decade of dominance. So it got me to thinking, let's bring it a little bit more locally. So let's talk about State and Ole Miss and give our top 5 players from each school over the last 10 years. So from 2014 to now, who are my top 5 Bulldogs and I guess Richard's top 5 Rebels. And Borky, are you participating in this?
I was going to leave it to the two of you.
All right, then. So
Nope. Borky, and hey, Dad, I need to groupthink this.
Okay.
Like
I'm down for that.
I've got names in my head, but this is a 10-year window. I'm going to forget somebody. I'm going to leave somebody out, and I need to debate. I need us to debate a little because I could almost go quarterbacks for top 5 Rebels over the last 10 years. And make a pretty good argument for that. But I don't think that's the right way to do it because there have been standout running backs. There have been some unbelievable wide receivers. There have been some great defensive players. I need a little bit of help on this.
Okay. So be it. So for Ole Miss.
Let's do how do we want to do it? Do we want to do all 5?
Back and forth. One okay. Ole Miss, one State. Ole Miss State, Ole Miss State, Ole Miss State.
So you start me off here. Give me a Rebel.
All right. I think number 1 for me is Elijah Moore. And but hear me out.
Number 1. Okay.
I'm not saying he's number 1 overall. He's my first name of the 5.
Okay, you said number 1
too. Yeah.
No. I think he's my first name of the 5.
You will start with Elijah Moore.
He had the single most prolific season catching the football. And he only played Borky that year in
8 games.
8 games.
And it was SEC opponents only.
He opted out of that game against LSU, and he didn't play in the bowl game either that season.
Just stupid numbers.
Yeah. And
great redemption story.
And there's the whole Elijah Moore kind of set some things in motion that created a lot of change over a significant period of time that you could butterfly effect it if you want to, has Ole Miss in the position that it's in today.
Perhaps the most influential player in Ole Miss history.
Maybe.
Okay. I can live with that. I can live with that choice. Yeah, certainly. Only 1 season, but it's a monster season for sure. I'll go start with mine with Emmanuel Forbes. The SEC's all-time leader in pick sixes, first-round pick, 3-year starter, All-American. I guess he wasn't. That was a big controversy there. But I'm a bit of a mark for Emmanuel Forbes. Big fan of his. I always enjoyed watching him play. State has had a great run of DBs over the last 6-7 years of guys getting into the NFL, but Forbes was the best of that bunch.
Okay. Just if you need to be reminded, Elijah Moore's numbers from 2020 were just silly. He had, hold on, here it is. 86 catches for 1,193 yards in 8 games.
Just dumb.
That's 150 yards a game. Against SEC only.
So yeah. I mean, if he just played the other 2 games and kept up that pace, he would have had
1,500 yards.
Yeah, and over 100 catches.
Mm-hmm. And probably 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm already struggling.
There's an obvious one that should be 1-1. I think.
Go ahead.
See, I'm
Laramie Tunsil.
See, I would not say he should be obviously 1-1.
Laramie Tunsil is
he's on the list.
I moved to Mississippi in the fall of 2010, so I don't have anything pre-2010. Laramie Tunsil is, to me,
you don't need it for this discussion,
right? But to me, easily the best football player I have seen play for Ole Miss. Easily the best.
He's the most talented, for sure.
In my two.
Can you say an offensive lineman is the most talented?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
When it's him.
Yeah. I left one off. I don't have Charles Cross on my list, but I could have easily put him on there.
Yeah.
Who were you deciding between him and
Forbes?
I like that. It's a tough choice.
Yeah, it is. A couple first-rounders. A couple All-Americans. Tunsil is an easy pick, though. He's on the top 5.
Who's your 1-1 then if it not Tunsil? Is it A.J. Brown?
It's Corral.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't hate that either. Quarterback obviously being
great for 2 years.
He was.
Yeah.
But I could make an argument that Chad Kelly led Ole Miss to a Sugar Bowl win for the first time in 40 years.
You can. You can make these arguments. These are arguments that can be made. The only guy on my list to not be in the NFL is Nick Fitzgerald. But he has to be on this list of the top 5 Mississippi State players of the last 10 years. Quarterback for 3 bowl games, won a ton of games at Mississippi State, the all-time leading rusher for quarterbacks in SEC play, tough as nails, and had the unenviable task of following another guy on this list who is, without question, the greatest Mississippi State quarterback of all time. Fitzgerald deserves to be on this list, in my opinion. He is definitely one of State's top 5 guys of the last 10 years.
So here's where I have this debate question. Does Quinshon Judkins go on this list for Ole Miss?
That's a very good question. He did what only like Herschel Walker has done as a freshman.
You could leave him off, and you could be justified in doing it if you have the right 5 guys on there. But you can put him on and be justified in having him on there too.
Does the breakup impact the standing? Because that is part of the story, right?
Yeah.
That's why, like, DK Metcalf isn't on that. Different reasons, of course, but that's why DK's not on the list. He didn't stay healthy enough to have.
Right.
He had one good year, but it wasn't as good as Elijah Moore's one good year.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think if it were my list, I'm commandeering your list, but I think Mike Hilton I would put on a list ahead of a lot of guys, including Quinshon, because the breakup is part of the story.
Mike Hilton's such a good player.
Has no business being on an NFL team, and yet he is. And by no business, I mean his size.
And like going into his, 4th year, 5th year?
It just, as reliable a tackler and a player as you can imagine, his size should not be playing major college football, and his size should not be playing in the NFL, yet there he is.
I mean, I was trying to think about the defensive side, and that's why I wanted to group think this, because Mike Hilton's name did not pop into my mind, but I'm completely okay with that. But I was thinking about, all right, what about Senquez Golson? You know, he made the play at the end of the game for arguably the biggest win in the modern history of Ole Miss football, certainly in the regular season, in that 2014 Alabama game. He was an interception machine. He was a playmaker at the back end of that defense. But I don't think he goes on this list. We'll pick this conversation up.
I totally disagree with you. It was very easy for me.
Hayden's got this locked in.
He does. That's all good. Sports Talk Mississippi with you, streaming at supertalk.fm, Supertalk TV. Thanks for being with us. Don't forget about our friends at PTG Outdoors. You can find them online at ptgoutdoors.com. Camus boats, great fishing boats, lots of different configuration options and motors and lengths that you can find that will take you to that perfect spot for you to catch all the fish that you want. And you want to outfit your boat, you can do so with Garmin products and other accessories that they've got available at PTG Outdoors. Their location in Grenada, it might be the best crappie fishing shop that you find anywhere on planet Earth. Whether you're looking for rods and reels or bait or any of the other accessories that you need, they've got you covered. Also, they are a Mercury Marine authorized dealer. Check out the latest Mercury motors. They can install those on an existing boat. They can swap out a motor, whatever it is you're looking for. They can help you out at PTG Outdoors. We are just a couple of weeks away from the return of the Fishy Line of the Week, brought to you by PTG Outdoors. It's still plenty warm to be out on the water Let PTG Outdoors help you with that. PTGOutdoors.com with locations in Grenada and right outside of Tuscaloosa in Northport, Alabama. Hey, Dad, give me the 5 names on your list.
For state? Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
5 most influential players or best players of the SEC network era, which is 2014 through today.
Manuel Forbes, Nick Fitzgerald, Montez Sweat, Dak Prescott, Jeff Simmons.
It's a pretty good list.
Who was in your others receiving votes category?
Charles Cross would have been in there.
Chris Jones?
Chris Jones.
Ooh, see, now we're getting you to think now.
So good as a pro, but as a college player, he was never that dominant. He was just good. Honestly, Darunya Wilson might be on the list. He was just really, really good for 2 years. Really good. Jonathan Abram. I mean, I'm pushing for it, but good player his senior year for Mississippi State. Elton Jenkins was a good player, but yeah,
Not an All-American linebacker?
Who, McKinney?
Or the 2 that just graduated?
Oh, no. Not now. No.
Really?
Yeah.
We're talking college career. We're not talking about NFL prospects.
But they're not on the Simmons, Sweat, Forbes level for me.
So I guess the 5 that I've got, and I'm giving Borky here, and we're kind of talking through this, and they're just a bunch of names that I think are being left off. Elijah Moore, A.J. Brown, Matt Corral, Mike Hilton, Laramie Tunsil.
Man, that's a tough beat for Chad Kelly.
That's a tough beat for Chad Kelly. I would listen to an argument for Bo Wallace.
Yeah.
For what he did in terms of propelling Treadwell, Quinshon Judkins. I said to Borky during the break, I feel like people forget what Cody Pruitt at free safety meant to that defense that was so good.
Mm-hmm. Kim Diche,
so good.
Honorable mention?
Who?
Kim Diche?
If we were ranking on potential?
Nah, but hold on a second.
He had his moments.
Hold on. There were some moments, and what I've said about him, I mean, obviously, if you look at stat lines, there's nothing from a stat line that has him as one of the best players in the last decade at Ole Miss.
He took up blockers, though.
He was at the top of opponents' scouting reports every single game when he was on the field.
He was, but he had moments. Most everybody else you named had seasons, careers.
Can I get pre-injury Tony Connor? I want that guy. I'll give you another name. Guy who I feared. I was like, just a great – Marquise Spencer. He could get the quarterback on the ground. I mean, he could just do it. He had a knack for it.
Marquise Haynes?
Did I say Spencer? He played at State. Yes, Marquise Haynes. Yes, my bad.
Yeah. Marquise Haynes, I mean,
I got my Marquises mixed up. Marquise Haynes, yeah.
I mean, you're kind of talking about the very beginning of this era, and I know you may cringe when I say this. I mean, what C.J. Johnson did on the field and what he created in recruiting and momentum and all of those things.
That's a big name you left out on the text line there, Evan Ingram.
Huge. Huge.
It's a difficult exercise.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
And what about Jackson Dart?
Yeah, Dart. If we did this next year, Dart would be on this list. He might be one.
Are we sure he shouldn't be on it already?
If we're gonna leave off Chad Kelly, we're gonna leave off Jackson Dart.
I mean, Jackson Dart just led Ole Miss to its first 11-win season in school history, including a win in a New Year's Six Bowl against a Big Ten team that had the number 1 defense in the country.
Great player.
Yeah.
Top 5 when I've got A.J. Brown and Matt Corral. I don't know. Might be 6th.
I don't think Ole Miss, because, best player, it can be relative, right? Like MVP can be relative. I don't think Ole Miss is in the position they're in today without Matt Corral's existence. Because, one, without Matt Corral, maybe Lane Kiffin doesn't even go to Ole Miss anyway. But because they had high level quarterback play right away, they could show proof of concept right away and win right away and go to an Access Bowl right away, which allowed them in the portal era to start being attractive, and they kind of built this off the back of what they were right away, which was really fun and exciting. That has a lot to do with the quarterback. If they had average quarterback play, if Matt Corral didn't exist, if it was just Plumlee, and then whoever else to follow him, they might not be in the position that they're in right now. In fact, I would have bet against it. But because they had him there and they could show that proof of concept, they could quickly build into what they are at the present.
We get a message that says Robert Kimdichi's game in Tuscaloosa was as good as I've ever seen any defensive lineman play in a college football game.
Really
that was the game that, you guys have heard me do the impression before, that prompted the Stephen A. Smith kind of meme where he's like, that guy, Kim, whatever his name is, that guy.
Good game.
Dante Moncrief's before this window, right?
Yeah, he's out. Moncrief, his last year was 12, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think
so
12 was his last season.
He's out of the window.
Yeah, so we're talking 2014 through now.
Somebody says
SEC Network launched in 2014.
Yeah, sorry. Somebody says, I disagree. Plumlee did not play under Kiffin. Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, yes, he did.
You don't remember all those jokes about, I keep telling Levy to get the ball to John Rice?
Put Plumlee in the game, Coach Levy?
I remember a whole offseason of Richard going on interviews and people asking him about John Rice Plumlee and Richard having to correct them and say, no, it's going to be Matt Corral.
It's going to be Matt Corral. Sorry, guys.
Was it you that had one, and then after the interview ended, they were like, nah, he's wrong. It's Plumlee. Like right away. Wasn't that you?
I don't know. I remember doing one with Chuck.
Yeah.
King in
Chuck
Atlanta.
Oliver.
Yeah, Chuck Oliver in Atlanta. And he asked me about Plumlee. I was like, Chuck, Matt Corral's going to be the quarterback of this team. And he was like, really? I was like, yes. And
you did one with Kubelik, too, and he was just like, really?
Yeah.
I remember that.
And then they kind of changed the way they talked about the quarterback position going forward on that. It's just like, guys, it's not even particularly close. I understand what they're saying and what they're doing and competition. This is Matt Corral's team coming up. So,